This is Open Forum with Stha, a program that seeks to address, talk about, and explore issues that affect us in our locality, especially in the areas of Kwabananda. On our second episode of Open Forum with Stha today, we'll be discussing the topic of depression. Depression seems to be on the rise in our community, seems to be on the rise in our society. And on our episode today, we have Nyasha Mazvabo, who has expanded and done some research within the locality of Kwabananda to address and talk about the issues of depression. And then we also have Slinobushe from Friendship Bench, who's here to talk and give us her view on the professional side of depression. So I will start with Nyasha Mazvabo. As I have already introduced you to our viewers, and we've also talked about that we'll be talking about depression today. Can you kindly tell us about the research that you have done, your findings in brief that you have done in your study and your area of research pertaining to the topic of depression?
Okay, thank you very much, Stha. Through my study, I've realized that depression, especially here in the ghettos, is not something that is thoroughly addressed. Many people suffer from depression because they have no one to talk to, and no one can see that they're depressed. Because people think that depression is all about a person who is crying and who's always sad. But there are other aspects of depression, there are other symptoms of depression that people don't see until it's too late. And because of our socio-cultural dimensions, we have realized that in the African culture, things like mental illnesses are not well addressed because people take it as things that are light, but they have serious consequences, and they can have serious physical consequences too. So in the ghetto, there is need for much intervention when it comes to situations like that. And when it comes to depression, people don't know that there are different types of depression and like different causes of depression. So in my research, I've realized that there are psychological depressions where it's all about the brain chemistry, where maybe someone has alterations in the brain chemistry and it leads to depression. And environment can lead to depression. When you're exposed to violence, abuse, you grow up to become a person who's depressed. And some things are caused by the character, the personality. You find that there are people who are usually quiet, people who are usually pessimistic about everything they do, always suspicious that something wrong will happen. Those people are likely to be more depressed. So at times there is need for, even though we can do the social mitigation of the things, but there is a whole lot of need of scientific intervention when it comes to depression, because there's been so much study and theories surrounding depression when it comes to science, but as we take it in the social context, it becomes more difficult to intervene. So I would urge many people to be careful about what they say to people and to really monitor their loved ones and close people, because someone can be depressed but you won't see it. And given the recent situation of the South African celebrity, Ricky, who recently committed suicide, he was a well person living the good life. It wasn't about poverty. Mm-hmm. But people, because he had the money and perceived lifestyle, that people think it's all about happiness. But given all that, he still committed suicide because he had some problems. Money cannot buy happiness. That's one thing for sure. So those are the little things that people should really look at when they approach people. And depression is something that really, really, really kills, because it will lead to, once you're depressed, you feel like that there's no need to continue living, and it leads to many risks like suicide or harm. And talking about suicide, I've noticed that through study, I've noticed that most people who are committing suicide because of depression are male more than females. And in our society, especially in our Black society, we always perceive that men are strong, they're emotionally strong beings. But this is not gender based. We are all emotional beings. And because we're men, we're expected to be strong. At times, our stresses, even though they can be shown to people tend to ignore them because they say they are men. A man will get over it, he is strong. But there are many things that make us suffer from depression. The economic situation is really making many people depressed because people don't afford, especially people with families, at times they may not be able to afford the standard of living that they really wanted, and it stresses a lot. And because of the social liberalization of females, now females can be like men. Long back we used to hear females crying about maybe infertility is caused by men, but now females can do that too because we liberated them, and that's the good part of globalization. Should be like that. People should be liberated, but because of that, the social adjustment of such things is slow. Men are not yet adjusted to the fact that a female can do whatever he can do. A female can be disloyal like he can do. So when men are faced with such situations, they get depressed more. But females, naturally, they've born to experience that, and at a young stage, when they are young, they experience that more, but many experience that less. So when they become old and get married, such things get them so much depressed, and that's the cause of such high rate of suicide among men and depression. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you so much. You mentioned a lot of issues there. You spoke of the societal influences of depression. So now going back to that through your research, can you just specify some of the social pressures and some of the social ills that you know and that you have come across also even in your line of work, even in your professional line of work? Over to you, maybe.
Okay, thank you so much, and I do appreciate what Nyasha has been saying. All the symptoms that you mentioned are in line with what depression is. So when you're talking of depression, you're simply talking of a mood disorder, which it affects our thinking, our decision making, it affects on how we really concentrate on some of those things. And now, like what really he said, looking at the society really is so kind of really giving, maybe elevating depression. Mm-hmm. Yeah, when we consider men, like what he's saying, that men now suicidal rates are a bit high when we look at the gender, the male gender. One aspect that we can also mention there, looking at how we live, the societal expectations that we have towards men. Mm-hmm. We expect men to provide for us. We expect men to do everything. We expect men not to show their emotions, not to cry, not to say, I don't have money, not to say, not to lose their jobs. Mm-hmm. They have to be working. Mm-hmm. And because of that now, COVID came in, mm-hmm. and most of the men lost their jobs. Mm-hmm. And because of that now, the society still, we just want to squeeze all the resources from men. Mm-hmm. But they can't give us all that now, and it leads to depression. Yeah, so I think some of the activities or some of the that we do as a society really affects men. Mm-hmm. And some of those, maybe you mentioned also again relationship issues. Yeah, like he said, women now, we are a bit, maybe if I can use the word ujo. Yeah, it's really becoming serious now. And men, it really affects their ego. It's a bruise against their ego. So really, for them, for the women to do that, the next thing the man what he thinks about is to take his own life. So basically I think that's where we are as a society.
Going back to that, you mentioned that basically that's where we are. So, what are some of the mitigations? What are some of the interventions that we can use, especially in relation to the relationship issue, where we are saying there's inequalities now that have been perpetrated by the liberalization, especially of women. So, what do you think are some of the interventions that we can do, especially when it comes to relationships and trying to address those issues, especially in our relationship, from the professional side of you? Then also I'll ask Nyasha from his research.
All right. The most important thing that we have to do is to reach out. If we have some issues in your relationship, you have to just reach out. Of course, sometimes we had the aunties back then, the sekurus, omalume, and you could go there and they become mediators. But now, because of all the changes in society, some have gone abroad and all. And now, the first thing that you have to do is to reach out. Find someone whom you trust that you can talk to. There are also organizations that you can also reach to. Friendship Bench is one of the organizations that you can use as maybe to have couple therapy, and it can also help in trying to solve all the problems maybe that you have. But the important thing that I can really say is reaching out. And you can also talk of maybe self-care, whereby you try and sit down and maybe engage in some other activities that that can assist you in trying to improve your health. Because now we are talking of someone who is mentally is not healthy at the moment, yeah. So maybe we talk of maybe having discussions where maybe as a couple and try and get someone to help. We also talk of engaging in activities as a couple that could help. We have outreaches, we have maybe church activities that could also help as a couple. But the most important thing that I can keep repeating is to reach out. Yes. So no one can really guess if you are okay, maybe as a couple, spending time together, that you are going through stuff. But if you reach out, you can really definitely get help.
Okay. Thank you. So Nyasha, going back to you, do you think, even from the conversations that you've had, what do you think are some of the social interventions that we can give to each other at a kasi level? Some of the interventions that we can help each other in our relationships or in our everyday life that you think can be of benefit to the next person?
Okay, with the change of times in the world, I've realized that people are now more of personal beings more than social beings. People now expect to be in their own confined environments. So that power of interrelationships in society has gone. So from what I've seen, the most needed thing is love for one another. So I'll preach the gospel of love. As long as I can love my neighbor and other people around, they will take care of me. Because if someone is my keeper, then I am my brother's keeper. So if we can create conducive environments where people realize that there is need for us to love one another and be close to one another, not to be separatists. That way, it is easy for someone to approach a person and convey their grievances, convey their situations. Like if a person is depressed, it is not easy to confront people because you have to confront someone who's really close to you. So if we don't have that closure, it's difficult for us to engage each other. So I think the power of love is important, because it's not only family who will give you love, but even friends and other people, even strangers. If they hear your story, they can offer you some bit of advice and consolation that can be better than even your family. So having the proper people to approach and the proper channels to approach I think is the best thing to go forward with eradication of this thing. Yeah.
Okay, also, going back also to your research and the people that you have spoken to, do you think, or are men confident enough to reach out? Are men or guys, our mates, our age, confident enough to approach the next person, to approach maybe Cindy, or to approach the next guy and say, I'm having troubles in my relationship, I don't think my girlfriend is doing the right thing. Nama problems. A guy is confident enough to do so, and is the society welcoming enough to the next guy to say, open up, it's fine?
Okay. From my research, men will never open up. It's hard for them to open up because given our social status is the apex of humanity, I've realized that men find it embarrassing to talk about things that are somehow bad to them, like things that will demean their character. So things like that's why you see men are being raped out there, but they never have any good channels to communicate because they are afraid it's embarrassing. It makes them weak. So anything that weakens their characters and their beings will limit them from talking about it. So there is really need for education about opening up, and there is really need for much teaching about the channels and the proper ways to communicate your problems. But as long as we don't have that, as men, it is difficult to communicate.
Okay, thank you. So, Cindy, speaking of which, also, even in your line of work, those who approach you, maybe those who seek interventions, either in relationships, about anything in general, from the statistics that you have. So, generally, what are the statistics, especially on those who reach out, the males, females, are confident enough to reach out? And from your professional side of view, what do you think causes labo reach out more than the other gender?
So from the statistics, we'll say normally we work in clinics.
Okay.
So I can maybe say from the 10 people that go to clinic, 4 are depressed. So we are simply saying 40% of the population, suffer. And now when we are looking at the two genders, the males and females, we experience depression differently.
Okay.
So women mostly are affected by depression and anxiety. But now when we are looking at the male counterpart now, it's more of drug abuse, and maybe the postnatal, because maybe they go through trauma and accidents and violence. Normally men go to war. So we talk of post-traumatic stress disorder in males. And like Nyasha is saying, the male seeking health behavior is poor. Males they are not really much concerned about their health. What they think of is maybe look for money. Sometimes you see that we are promising money, but it's not feeling well. He doesn't think of going to the clinic first and maybe go to work later. No. So we try and encourage males to seek medical help as soon as they have an issue or they're not feeling well. And we can see from friendship-based statistics that 31% of our clients are males, which is maybe underdiagnosed because, as I said before, their health-seeking behaviors are very low. Maybe because of the way they were socialized, I think, because males are supposed to be strong, they are not supposed to break, they are not supposed to. So for them now to seek help, sometimes they are embarrassed, like what he said. So we keep on encouraging males, and we try again in our system of maybe health to have more men. Like in clinics we also work with grandmothers, but now we are encouraging grandfathers like Osekuru Nabokuru Rababekon, so that a male can be comfortable to sit down with the Osekuru and they discuss. And maybe, so we are trying as Friendship Bench now to incorporate male counselors. Though we are having challenges because they are not, it's voluntary work. Yeah, so males, they don't really prefer voluntary work. So it's one aspect that we are trying to, at least maybe males could really feel free to come to the clinic because they have a male counterpart that they can sit down and talk. Yeah, they're on the same level, they're on the same page, and yeah. So it's one aspect that we are trying to do as Friendship Bench.
So you have it, guys. Friendship Bench, it's out there, it's in our clinics. Let's try and get hold of them. I guess it's also an encouragement to Abu Baba. Let's sisukume and we work, we talk to each other. That way, sometimes I guess it's an issue. Most of us more than our health, as Uskinti has mentioned. So it's an encouragement to everyone. Even I guess Nyasha in your research, as we continue to converse. Do you think Amajida, as Uskinti has mentioned, of the guys that you have spoken to, all and everything, do you think you forthcoming? Mina, I give myself time. When I given that opportunity to work and to socialize and counsel, would you take up that role? And would you encourage other guys to take up that role? You would undergo a training where you are willing to talk to other guys.
Clearly take that role because it's a role that really helps people around. So I would really much work harder on that. But when it comes to guys don't really like partaking in such things where they talk about emotional things. So I really don't think much of the guys would take up that job or that responsibility because it talks about the weaknesses of people and the weaknesses of men. So as guys, we really refrain from tampering with such matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So still, especially our guys in the wood. What can we do or what can you incorporate in the already existing interventions? Guys and talk. Incorporator that you think might interest guys. What do you think about our incorporator that can interest guys despite but there's this interest guys still.
Okay. When it comes to educating people about that, I think there are strategies that you should implement. There's a difference between talking to guys in Makonnen and talking to people in offices. The language should differ. So when it comes to talking to guys in Makonnen, it would be better if you approach the people in their social or recreational spaces and talk to them in their language and in the way they expect to hear that thing. You can't go to them and start being a professional and talking all those scientific jargons. No, you can't do that. But let's say talking to people when they're drinking, they just like a joke, guys. But what do you think about this? Guys, matter that one that's space to see every time to shopping. I think that's the way it's about the approach, the language that you use and the way you talk to those people. Because you talk to them in their language that they understand most. Yeah.
Okay. So say depression, the interventions that is offer either professionally or in our day-to-day lives. So depression, do we have medication for depression or just share maybe basic medication for depression? I know Gary doctor, nurse, and so forth. But is there medication for depression?
Yeah, when it comes to depression is severe. Yeah, for mild and moderate depression, normally psychotherapy works. Just talk therapy works. But ikhona is severe, like maybe umuntu secabanga ukuzibulala, suicidal ideations and all. There are medications for that. Yeah. But for friendship bench, we are not into medication, so I won't really share more on that one. But we have antidepressants. But that one now it's beyond us, where we refer people to hospital and they are seen by the doctors, they are screened and they are given medication. Yeah, medication is definitely there for depression.
Okay. Speaking of doctors and hospitals, I think that part in our locality,
Yeah.
So there's a stigma attached to Ingute. Just saying Ingute or just saying good 2030. Ulenda venkulu uvele sokuthi awuphenduke engutsheni. Usually most of us khonapha sisixoxela ube sehlanye uphenduke engutsheni. What can you just share with abantu ngestigma yona leyo, and maybe ukhulume maybe in brief ukuthi engutsheni maybe ayisondawo kuphela yabantu? Yes.
Okay. The terminology that we use, it's at times really leads to stigma. Yeah, because like what you are saying, for us in mental health, we avoid using such words. Yeah, so system
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we refer to those people. And really, it's an important thing as community. Yeah. Ingutsheni is just a hospital if I'm UPH. Kufana ukuthi ususithi umuntu UPH akuyenzi. So but you see hospital esilapha eminye imikhuhlane, yeah, a different form of illness, but still it's so we need to teach a community the mental health umuntu lwana ayisukuthi usekase umuntu. And the other important thing is when that person comes from the hospital in Bujeni, is the community ready for that person? Yeah, we need to teach again to accept that person again. So we also make use of our halfway homes. They also help. Umuntu maybe comes, is discharged from Bujeni, they go and stay halfway home. So it's a home that is between the actual home patient and the hospital. Yeah. So they teach, they train the community, they teach again that person with integration back to this community. That person is accepted, and also at the same time teaching again the community to accept that person. So maybe if somewhere it lacks there, then really sometimes we blame our families, but they don't really know how to deal with that person. They don't really know. So sometimes we need that education. They have to know how to accommodate that person, and so I think the other thing that we have to add is ones. They also in the education, then the language that we use. Was Ingutsheni is just a hospital. Just maybe we change UPH to be Ingutsheni. Will it like have the same effect? We have just changed the names. Yeah, so it's just a hospital where people get help. Yeah, so maybe it's just the knowledge that people have towards mental health that we need to teach people. Yeah.
Okay. So Nyasha, even from your research and our conversations, I think what can you say in that you are just speaking of the stigma attached to seeking in mental health interventions, especially when you are referred to Engutsheni. From your conversations with the guys, do you think umuntu accept maybe when you're conversing with them? Do you think umuntu engavuma refer endaweni njengengutsheni, the guys that you have conversed with? Do you think ukuthi engavuma, and what can you say to the next person concerning seeking out and reaching out for professional and medical intervention depression and other mental health illnesses.
Okay. When it comes to mental health, people tend to be serious about it, and they are really embarrassed about that situation. So I've realized that many people, when they are told that you should go to Nguchen because they should fix you mentally, they'll be thinking that so they're trying to say no, I'm okay. So I've had some situations where, okay, I've seen people who suffer from bipolar and schizophrenia. What I've realized is that even our cultural background hinders us from accepting other things. Like when a person suffers from schizophrenia, the problem is that at times it clouds reality and imagination. You won't be able to know whether you are imagining things or it's reality. So because of that, people can act out in frustration, lash out to you. So, and they can see things, but it should be just mental. So I've seen that many people who suffer from schizophrenia, they tend to go to traditional healers because they are told that they've got evil spirits. They're seeing things because there are things that are approaching them. And the moment people go around to those healers, they'll be wasting time and it becomes worse. So if we don't accept the scientific explanation of things, we can never deal with such situations in a quicker way that can help people. So I think the cultural and the social aspect of things makes it very difficult to deal with it, because socially no one wants to be known that they're mad, but they're not mad. It's just a small mental problem that can be solved, but they waste time because of procrastination or fear of being known that they are taking such medical pills or something like that. So after all, it's really a difficult thing to really solve, because people have to accept both in cultural aspects and in the social aspects. So I think my conclusion is that it's very difficult for guys to accept.
Thank you. So you have it, guys. There you have it, guys. Bunzima for guys to actually reach out. So I guess there's still a lot of work from organizations and you guys, the Friendship Bench and other organizations, where we need to make awareness. We talk about it until uzwakale. We spoke about HIV and AIDS, stigma and discrimination. Waze wazwakala. So being a hinder from talking about mental health issues, mental health illnesses, and that's why accepting to remove that stigma, especially of the term Ingujane or 2030. So those are the challenges. We have to challenge each other, even as a society, to say, let's talk about these things, let's try and be open. In as much as Nyasha has mentioned, it's difficult and it's hard to talk about these issues. So, Lindsay, can you kindly share details in case anyone has to reach out, whether was the way to go to and who to talk to, your social media platforms and all?
Okay, so for Friendship Bench, we have online services. We offer counseling online, and the number is 0784 845 294. I'll take it up again, 0784 845 294. So a person can either send a WhatsApp text to book for a session. And we also have our website is www.friendshipbenchzimbabwe.org. Then at Twitter, we are at Friendship Bench, same as Facebook. Then Instagram is at Friendship Bench Zimbabwe. Yeah, so it's either online. So we also have physical sessions, but because of COVID now, it's a bit less. But you can go primary health care clinic. You see our Gogo. We refer them to Gogo. Those, yeah. We have a higher percentage of female counselors than Osekoro. And I'm glad to say now we are in Bulawayo, but we were still training our grandmothers. Yeah, we are training about 60 So maybe by end of March, they'll be back in their clinics. We have about 21 clinics in Bulawayo. So maybe I'll come back to you later when we are now implementing in clinics so that people can, but for now I think if they could use the open line, the online number that I've given you, and also maybe our website, maybe they can get more information. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There you have it, guys. Let's hope you're noting down our numbers and our platforms where we can talk to abantu from a friendship bench. Nyasha, what's your word of advice to the other guys, to Abosisibe, to Konapekas? Because in as much as it's a challenge to the guys also, I think it's also a challenge amongst us, the age group, to Akulu, even Osisi, to talk about some of these things. What would be your word of advice? Either someone who suffer from depression or the next person, Oshala, the next person, what would be your word of advice?
Okay. My advice would be that be careful how you talk to people, because everyone is going through something. So it is imperative that we all reach out to each other. Don't stay a month without communicating to your close friend, because you don't know why they are not communicating with you. Maybe they are depressed. And always have someone who is close to you. Don't be a separatist. Have friends, have close family friends, so that whenever you have a problem, you are free to convey the things to the people. But if you stay to yourself and be private, it will be difficult for you to communicate with people, and people will find it more difficult to reach out to you. So the aspect of being open and friendly to people, I think it will make us be able to communicate and solve our problems.
Okay, thank you. So, once that high unjaninga, usharp, long time is important, because now we have situnga ukona katunga sewadlula. So it's important to even read in between the lines. Not everything has to be black and white. Even those small gray words, we have to read them. Let's mind how we talk to each other. The next person is going through something, but something is running in their minds, and someone is feeling pressure somehow. So let's be careful how we talk to each other. Let's be careful how we say some of the things. Take care of me and I'll take care of you. Till next time, thank you.